Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Audible, Spotify, Stitcher, and a whole host of other major platforms. And, of course, on my free subscribe YouTube channel. So if you've missed any of my interviews, Corey Feldman, Fran Drescher talking about how to reduce the risk of cancer, Arturo Sandoval, an amazing musician. I've had a whole host of musicians on my show, Keiko Matsui, now I'm blanking, and lots of great humanitarians, Frank Shankwitz, the co-founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, Larry Namer, the co-founder of E-Entertainment, who made me take out no K-words, no Kardashian talk out of my intro. But he was right, because I'm supposed to be a show about hope and happiness and not downgrade anyone. And I understand Kim Kardashian is actually doing some really nice things for incarcerated youth. And so I'm grateful for that. But this is a show about hope and happiness and how you can have a day where you actually have fun and laugh and are happy 88% of the time. And that's to balance out all the negative news that if you start your day, which I hope you don't, I hope I've broken you of that habit of starting the day by scrolling. I'll tell you what you're going to find is a lot of angry rhetoric or opinionated BS belief systems that people are not going to change their minds about. So if you put a comment there, it's really not going to make a difference. I still get tempted every once in a while, but I try for the most part to be positive in all of my posts as well as my reactions, because there's just too much hate around. There's too much division already. I don't want the United States to be an oxymoron. I want us to be united. I know we have a lot to work out around policing, incarceration, racism, injustice, hate crimes. I know there's so much that's going on that's negative, but being hate back is not the solution. And so my show is all about bringing guests and topics to the forefront to balance all that out. And I hope you're enjoying. Please do. I love feedback, especially when it's positive. But go to drmarissa.life and just put in, what you're thinking, what you want me to talk about, what's interesting, what you've enjoyed, what you'd like more of, maybe what you'd like less of. Because I want this beautiful new promotion platform, thanks to the owner of KCAA, Fred Lundgren, who asked me to take over the morning show slot. I want you to start your day in the most positive way possible. Why? Because one, it affects your health. And I want a healthy America. And if you're constantly complaining and constantly overwhelmed and constantly angry and constantly resentful and constantly worried, it absolutely is going to make you sick. The studies are very clear now that your emotions are tied to your physical health. So I want you to be healthy. That's number one. Two, I want you to just feel good. Laughter is my favorite sound in the whole planet. If it's cardio for my soul. I love when people laugh. I love when they laugh with me, not necessarily at me. But it's a good thing if more of us can raise our vibration to the energetic level of love and joy and peace. Can you imagine what our world would be like? Then we would not have war. We would not have starvation. We would not have greed. We would not have a lot of the things that are taking us down. So there's the other motivation. The third motivation is it just forking feels better. I don't know about you, but when I'm laughing, it feels a whole lot better than when I'm worrying. And I can't worry and laugh at the same time. Well, I can if it's a sarcastic laugh. But for the most part, I want to take you with me. I want you to drink my rose-colored Kool-Aid. I want you to take on this day as the best day ever. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I hope that you are going to continue to enjoy this hour show. If you can't make it during the actual broadcast, where you just go to KCAA Radio and hit listen now, or you go to my YouTube channel where it's released at the same time after the NBC News at the top of the hour. You can also listen to it after on all those platforms that I said, as well as my YouTube channel. It's a free subscribe, and I'm grateful that there's over 230,000 views now. So what are we talking about today? So we have another question of the day in the middle of the show. And yesterday was overwhelmment. The day before was procrastination. Today's question of the day is, how do we adjust? How do you adjust to new things? A lot of us have, gotten adjusted, not because we necessarily wanted to, we had to the pandemic. Now we're adjusting back as we take a peek from under the pall of the pandemic. Can you tell I love to play with words? So how do we adjust? That's the middle. And then the last segment is the second half of my brilliant interview with one of the most brilliant educators in the world about racism and how we inadvertently teach it. So that her segment, Jane Elliot, it will be in the last segment of today's show. So that's the lineup. I hope that you are really using the most powerful tool that you have, which is choice. I hope that you are starting your day with a gratitude sandwich. You all know that tool. I'm going to say it again for those of you who are new. Since I've only been on here, I don't think it's been quite a month yet on the morning show, but I absolutely hope that you start every single day, not with me, but with a gratitude sandwich. And that is, it's a tool that I use with all of my life balance coaching clients. I use it with myself. I used it with my kids every single day on the way to school. And that is, you pick, when they were kids, you can do, this is the kids version. It's only 3 gratitudes. So Dr. Wayne Dyer said 5. I'm an overachiever. I say 8 because I'm also Chinese. I know you thought I was Swedish if you can't see me on the radio, but if you look after on the audio visual, I am not Swedish. I am Chinese, and 8's a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homonym for good fortune. So I do 8 gratitudes every morning, specific, no family and friends. That's too general. And with the kids, you just do it. Now that you might be taking them to school, start the practice of 3 gratitudes every single morning on the way to school. So what are you grateful for? And then you can add appreciations, which is the bottom of the bun, which is, what are 3 things that you appreciate about yourself, about the driver, and about the people in the car. So that's for your kids. For yourself, it's 8 things that you appreciate about yourself. What do you appreciate about yourself? Because that is the ticket to inner peace. If you can approve of yourself and stop walking around with antenna up going, who loves me, who likes me, who's giving me likes, who's commenting, who's saying nice things, who's putting me on a pedestal, you're constantly going to be disappointed because you're not going to get enough accolades. Even if someone says you're doing a great job, you're going to be like, oh, that's a momentary high. And then you don't say that often enough. Or when was the last time you said that? So self-approval is one of your greatest tools and tickets to a happy life. So I'm hoping that you can do that. Take a bite of my gratitude sandwich every day. We'll be right back with more on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa on KCAA, a station that leaves no listener behind. Don't go away. And we're back. Welcome to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And it's the time for the QoD question of the day. When people ask me help with advice that sometimes I don't use, but most of the time I do. And yesterday we had a question about what to do when you're overwhelmed. The day before that was about procrastination. Thank you for the messages of thank you for helping with a little bit of daily coaching to keep you happy 88% of the time. I'm happy to oblige because it also helps me. So the question is, how do we adjust to the new schedules and the new things that I have to do? What is the best way to adjust to new schedules? And that question is from one of my life balance coaching clients who's, having a little bit of a difficulty because we have gotten into the habit of a very different way of life in the last 16.8 months. 497 days, 17 months or 18 months now. So it is an adjustment. And the first tool that I'd like to give you is a Happy 88 tool in my 8 Ways to Happiness from wherever you are. And just like yesterday, we're going to have another Asian Oprah giveaway. So the first person to go to drmarissa.life and put in the subject line in the pop-up, Asian Oprah giveaway, will get a free copy of my audiobook of 8 Ways to Happiness, because I want you to be happier. I want you to be happy 88% of the time. That's my Happy 88 mission. 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. So back to the answer to the question. How do we adjust? The first tool is called Give Yourself a Break. And this is especially important for anyone who says, I'm my own worst critic. When I get 99 compliments, I focus, and 1 insult, I focus on the insult. I'm harder on myself than anyone else in my life. Those 3 qualifiers are perfectionists. And if you're a perfectionist, you're probably beating yourself up no matter where you are in the process of adjustment. And it's not helpful. Beating yourself up is not a good motivator. So 2 words for you: stop it. Stop beating yourself up. Give yourself a break. So how do you give yourself a break? Of course, you know what I'm going to do right now. Those of you who've been following me for a while, have been on the air for over 9 years. What we're going to do is, the first thing to do when you're starting to beat yourself up is take a deep breath in through your nose and release through the mouth. Another deep breath in. Releasing all the stories and the drama. And 1 more deep breath in. Connecting with me through Chi, eternal energy, the breath of life that connects us all. No beginning, no end. And it's a great example. When I take a breath in, I take nothing from you. There's more than a breath to go around, which is one of the things that you remember when you're adjusting. It's going to be okay. Abundance is the order of the day. It's going to be okay. We're going to have enough time. We're going to have enough all the way around, even though the news says we're not, even though society says, it's dog eat dog, rat race. I'm going to climb my way or claw my way to the top and step on your head in the process. That's all BS. That is all belief systems that hopefully are going away. So you got this. You can do this. It's going to be okay. And if you can grasp that concept for yourself and not need other people around you to say it's going to be okay, I'll tell you the number 1 powerful tool that we all have is choice. And if we can choose to not get caught up in the frenzy of the news, yes, Simone Biles is having some adjustment herself. Do we really want to spend an entire day criticizing her or trying to figure out why or how dare she or how can she do this? That is not what I want to choose to use my time to do. I'm going to send her love and light, and I'm going to hope for the best for her, and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to be grateful for the Olympics as a sport that has people rising up to their potential and giving me some entertainment and some excitement in watching the competition, because I am so competitive. I can do it through somebody else, once every 4 years or once every 2 years, and it's a chance for me to get together with my bonus mom and dad to watch these thrilling things that human nature can do. But I'm not going to choose to spend my entire day in some dis-ease with Simone Biles. I don't want to do that. It's not productive. People who are doing that all over social media, please just attend to your life. My conversation with Seth Greenleaf on Monday, I hope you got something out of that. It's always nice to meet someone who agrees with me, but not because they agree with me, but because we want to affirm the goodness of life. So you can adjust to whatever's coming at you one breath at a time, one thing at a time. We got this. But it's most important, not that I tell you this, but I will tell you that, and you can believe me and hold my encouragement in your ear until you can do it yourself. But if you can use your own muscle of self-approval and self-soothing and self-direction so that you're taking care of your own self, then we've got world peace. Because if every individual can take responsibility for their own lives and their own ability to just chill out, just enjoy what you have in front of you, be grateful for what you have in front of you. That's the tool for today too. Take a bite of my gratitude sandwich. I know I keep preaching to the choir on this one, but gratitude is the quickest thing that you have in order to be able to adjust with grace, adjust with peace, adjust with fun, adjust with joy. So instead of complaining constantly, oh my God, now we got to go back to work. Oh my God, oh my God, we got to wear masks again. Oh my God, when is this going to be over? Blah, 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 blah. That's your choice in the channel that you're tuning to, your own mind. You'll find people to agree with you and complain. You'll find news stories that continue to give you food to complain on constantly, to give you a reason to say the world is going to hell in a handbasket, to constantly say, I give up. But you have the choice of what you're listening to. You have the choice of choosing to believe that it's going to be okay, because it is going to be okay. We as humanity have gone through a lot of different things and we're okay. Yes? Have I got you to drink a little bit more of my rose-colored Kool-Aid? I hope so, because I really, really, really want everyone to feel better right now. It's not good for us as a society to wake up feeling like a piece of shiitake constantly. It's not good for us health-wise to wake up overwhelmed and feeling like we can't do it. We can do it. So here's the last tool that I'm going to give you for today's encouragement for the question of the day. How do we adjust? You're not always going to feel like doing what needs to be done. Let's just put that moose on the table. That's my Canadian version of the elephant in the room. You're not going to always feel like it. I don't always feel like it. Using yesterday's Happy 88 tool on giving yourself a break. I give myself 12% of the time the ability to just not do perfectly, not adjust. I do it. And when I don't feel like it, I just don't do it, because I want to give myself that slack. But 88% of the time, I do follow Nike's just do it, even when I don't feel like it. So this is the graduate school learning here. A beautiful lesson that I got. I shared a stage a long time ago on the East Coast with Michael Phelps, and he said something that I will never, ever, ever forget. Someone asked him, how did he get all those gold medals? People train. What separates him? And his answer was as follows. Most athletes train 6 days a week, and they take 1 day off. And I wanted to be better. I wanted that gold. I wanted to reach and aspire for more than just, standing on the podium. I wanted the gold. So what did he do? He trained 7 days. And he said, did I feel like doing that all the time? He said, absolutely not. But the trick is to do things that you don't feel like doing and feeling the accomplishment and the pride of doing that. And that stuck with me. So 88% of the time, at least 20% of that 88%, I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to record the show all the time. I don't want to cover some news story all the time. I don't want to do the dishes. I don't want to clean. I don't want to do laundry. I don't feel like cleaning up after myself. I don't feel like making my bed. I don't feel like doing a lot of things that I'm required to do. And what do I do with that? 12% of the time, I don't do it. And I give myself a break. And I said, it's not going to kill anyone if those dishes are left in the sink for another day. It's not going to kill. I still have clean underwear somewhere. I don't have to do the laundry today, even though I said I was going to do it. But when there is nothing clean and I still don't feel like doing it, I say, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to pull a Michael Phelps. I'm going to pull a Nike and just do it because I am. And I'll feel better once I do it. All right. And that's it for the answer to the question of the day. I hope you enjoyed that. Please, I love feedback. I don't always want it, especially when it's negative, but please let me know if you have a question that you would like me to answer next week's show, anytime on drmarissa.life, or you can message me anywhere because I want to know what you're thinking. All right. We'll be right back with the second half of an amazing interview with Jane Elliot because the theme for this week is ending racism. So come back and enjoy here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. And we're back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And as I promised, I'm bringing you the interview, one of my favorite interviews and a very important interview during these very special times when we seem to be looking for a solution to ending racism. My interview with Jane Elliot in 2 parts. Please enjoy. On iHeartRadio. And today it is my birthday show, and I have the amazing and wonderful 86-year young Jane Elliot. Elliot, who has been working very, very diligently to try to re-educate us when it comes to racism. Now, we have gone through what you did with the children. I want to get a little bit personal. You did this at some cost to yourself, to your family, to your kids. This was, a very, as you said in the studio in Canada, people are angry that you tried to do this or that you did do this. What kept you going? Were you ever tempted just to say, you know what, this is like too much?
There's no going back. Once you've stepped in it, you're stuck in it. You can't just turn around, and good deeds will not go long unpunished. Make no mistake about that. I will never be known in that community for anything but the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise. And 20% of the people in that community will continue to hate me because I challenged their ever so happily held beliefs in the brightness of whiteness. And for me to say to a group of third graders, and then to people of all ages and all colors and all stages, that there is no rightness to whiteness because there is no whiteness, is absolutely unacceptable. But they couldn't get to me, so they abused my kids. After I'd done it, 2 years after I did the exercise, maybe 3, the elementary principal's wife, who taught at the high school, came to me during a teacher's meeting and said, "Jane, get your kids out of the school." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because these teachers are trying to destroy your children." Oh. I had no idea at that time how ugly it got for my kids in classrooms at the hands of teachers who couldn't get rid of me because I could teach every child to read. And they later on, the reporters questioned the superintendent and said, "Why didn't you fire her? You could have fired her." And he said, "Because I knew what she was doing was right. How could I fire her for doing the right thing?" The teachers didn't feel that way about it. They were furious. And so I got my kids out of there, but I continued to teach there. They didn't get rid of the problem, but they got rid of the persons who were going to be victims because of my causing a problem. And the problem that I caused was, after that, when some teacher who had some of my previous third graders in a classroom would use the N-word, one of my kids, my former students, would stand up and say, "Mrs. K, if you're going to use that word, I'm going to go out in the hall until you get done doing it, because we don't use that word in this school anymore." That kind of courage those kids got as a result of going through that exercise for a day and realizing how ugly it is and how ugly it feels to be on the receiving end of it, and how ugly people sound who are expounding that kind of attitude and that kind of views. Teachers ought to learn either to educate or to get out of the field. See, I'm not a teacher, I'm an educator. Right. The word educator comes from the root duck deuce, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix ate, which means the act of, and the suffix or, which means one who does. An educator is one who is engaged in the act of leading people out of ignorance, and you cannot do that if you teach that it was all right for us to end the Second World War by dropping atomic bombs on people who had not killed 11 million people in the previous years. Right. That is not the way you teach the truth. Yeah. That is not the way you teach people not to discriminate on the basis of skin color. To celebrate Columbus Day is as ridiculous as any of the other things we do. Columbus didn't discover America. You can't discover a place where people are already living. They discovered it before you got there. So it's that kind of thing that we're doing in the schools to this day that have to be stopped. We have to start teaching the truth. We have to start truly educating instead of indoctrinating students. We indoctrinate students when I was taking education courses, I was told to educate these students in a way that they will be good American students. No. Number one, America is everything from the northernmost point of Canada to the southernmost point of South America. All the people who live in those areas, all those countries, are Americans. North Americans, Central Americans, Latin Americans, South Americans. They're all Americans. We need to teach students how to be United States of American students, because we educate in a totally different way than the other countries do, just as they educate in a way that's good for their country. So that's what we do for ours. But each of them has a country by its own name. We call ours the United States of America. But when our presidents stand up and say, "God bless you and God bless America," and then one of them builds a wall on the southern border so that we can keep those brown-skinned people out, because he has said that brown-skinned people can't come in here, they reproduce too rapidly. You see, we don't really like all Americans. We just like United States of Americans, which is the United States. People seem to think that America is just those 48 contiguous states Alaska, Hawaii, and the islands off the southeastern coast of the United States. It isn't. Mm-hmm. America is everything that I just told you.
Right.
The United States of America is it's just a little piece of all of that.
Yes.
And people need to realize that. Mm-hmm. And we won't realize it as long as we use the wrong maps. And if you haven't seen the Peters projection map, you need to take a look at it.
Okay. What's different?
Okay. Oh, my God. I'm so glad you asked. Look at this. See this map?
Yes.
I think this is the map that you're accustomed to seeing. See Greenland hanging down like a great big ripe plum. Uh-huh. And then look at the size of Canada. It stretches from hell to breakfast. It's huge. And look at poor little South America down here. And on this map, the equator is 2/3 of the way down the map. Now, according to your social studies teachers, the equator divides the Earth into two equal parts, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, because hemi means half. Are you telling me that this much of the map is half of the map? Mm. Of course not, because it's not. Now, at the bottom of this map, and you may not be aware of this because you don't usually read the legend. Read the legend at the bottom of most of the Mercator maps, and it says, South America is actually 9 times larger than Greenland.
Wow.
At the bottom of the Mercator map, it says South America is actually 9 times larger than Greenland. Now, how can you use this map and tell the truth? You can't.
Wow.
Some people say, well, you can't put a spherical shape on a flat surface without that kind of distortion. Oh, yes, you can. Here is a new map. This is the Peters projection map. Look at the size of Greenland on this map. And then look at the size of South America. Mm-hmm. Greenland, South America, mm-hmm. Canada. It makes sense to have Canada only the size that it is instead of the size that is. And on this map, the equator is halfway between the North Pole and the South mm-hmm. Pole, which means it's in the right place.
Right.
This map is called the Peters projection map. Everybody could be using it in the schools today. You can get it from capital O, capital D, capital T, maps, maps.com. And if you do it now, you'll get a really good deal on it. We need to change the maps in the schools.
Yes.
The schools in Boston all have the Peters projection map in the classroom. Now, if they can do it in Boston, mm-hmm. they can do it in Osage, and they can do it in Waterloo, and they can do it in St. Louis.
Yes.
And we can stop telling people that white countries, which are the largest ones on this, are the biggest and the most important and the most prominent. Now, you see, Mr. What's his name in the White House wanted to buy Greenland. He thought it was this big. Then somebody must have shown him another map and shown him it's only this big. Leave it alone. So now he doesn't want to buy Greenland anymore, as far as I know. However, you need to realize that we teach ignorance deliberately in the schools in this country. Anybody who is using the Mercator projection map is miseducating their children. Mm-hmm. And now somebody's going to say, as some cartographer is going to say, you don't understand about maps. Mm-hmm. Maps are drawn from the perspective of the person drawing them, and they draw them from all different perspectives. Fine. That's okay. Draw it from your perspective, but don't draw a lie and then say this is the truth, because this isn't the truth.
Right.
And we need to stop using it.
Yeah. So what top 3 re-educating topics should we be charged with? As your listeners right now, you have the attention of all of us. What can we do to re-educate? And is it even possible to re-educate people who have decided that white is right and white is the most powerful, and that's our birthright to dominate, and everyone else needs to fall in line? Is it possible to re-educate that?
Oh, yeah. If I can do it with 9-year-olds, we could surely do it with 40 and 50 and 60 and 60-year-olds. Right. Are you telling me that 40, 50, 60-year-olds aren't as smart as 9-year-olds? If you are, then those 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds ought to go back to school, and they need to be re-educated. And that is exactly the problem. We need to re-educate people. We need to stop telling. There's a book that everybody should read. It's called The Myth of Race by Robert Wald Sussman. And it tells you that it takes you through the whole thing and lets you know that there's only one race on the face of the earth, and that's the human race, and we're all members of it. And this whole idea of 3 or 4 different races started during the Spanish Inquisition, which was about between 500 and 600 years ago. People, get over it. Before that, people were just people of different colors, different nationalities, different cultures, different age groups. They were not different races. There's only one race. They came up with the idea of race that short a time ago. Now we could teach, you could, if we ever go back to school this year, parents should get copies of the Peters projection map and send them to school with their child and say, and get them large ones. Get the one that you hang on the wall. Have it laminated first, because if you don't, the teachers will make sure it gets torn before you have a chance to put it on the wall. So get it laminated and send those maps to school with your children and say, I want my children taught the truth about the size, the location, and the importance of the landmass on the face of the earth. And I also want them told the truth about who the first modern human beings were, and they were black. And I also want my child to be told that when my kid goes to kindergarten and when my great-grandchild goes to kindergarten, I want the teacher to say to that great-grandchild, who is part Hispanic, everybody take out the white crayon out of your Crayola crayon box. Now take that white crayon and hold it against the back of your hand and see if it matches. And if it doesn't match the color of that crayon, then you aren't white. I want teachers to wear a white shirt on the first day of school and say, see the color of my shirt, kids? This is white. See my skin? This isn't white. See my hair? This is white. My skin isn't white. I want you all to know that there is no such thing as white. There are only shades of brown. And I want every teacher to get this and put it up in the classroom. You can get it in the National Geographic magazine for April of 2018. It is a 3 pages of people of different colors, and each of them has a name and a number underneath of them. The name is Pantone. These are the colors. You can find your skin color on the Pantone color wheel. Now you'll notice that none of the people on these pages have skin this color. Right. Because people don't come in this color. Because we all came from those first black people who evolved in sub-Saharan Africa between 300,000 and 500,000 years ago. And there are some things that teachers have to stop saying. And parents need to tell them when they go to the school, the parents have to say to the teachers, I want you never to refer to my child as biracial, because neither his father nor I came from outer space. We are off from the planet Earth. Therefore, the child is not biracial. The father is black, the mother is white, or the mother is black, the father is white. But those are not different races. Those are different color groups. So in the future, instead of referring to people as biracial, we're going to refer to people as mosaic. A mosaic is an art form that is new and beautiful and made of many different elements and has no negative connotation. It's a good thing to be mosaic because practically every human being on the face of the earth is mosaic. Every one of us. You need to realize that. And you need to encourage teachers, because most of them, I'm sorry, aren't educators. Most of them teach the standard elementary curriculum without stopping to think, wait a minute, this was written in the 30s. I want people who are determined to continue to think that there are several different races on the face of the earth to go back to the time when people believed that in the 15th and 16th century and live as we lived then. If you're not going to give up that language, if you're going to continue to use the language of those early centuries, then you need to travel the way they did then, be entertained the way they did then, communicate the way they did then. And if you're going to educate that way, then you have to do all the other things that they did in the 15 and 1600s. Right. I doubt that you're going to be very comfortable, but you will be living your beliefs and you'll be using the language that makes you happy. Now, it makes you happy, but it's a lie. You need to realize that only 25% of the population of the earth, 25% of the population of the earth is classified as white. And they aren't white.
Right. But they're also, can we ever get to that place, though, where our whole country and the whole slogan, Make America Great Again, it's one nation, it's the best nation, we're the American. Are we ever going to get to the place where we are the human race and all races are good and equal and wonderful? Is that even possible? I want to believe it is, but I also am known to be a little rose-colored. Kool-Aid. What? Okay.
That statement. The color of your skin is the result of your people's diet over thousands and thousands of years, and your eyes are the result of the sun hitting the earth at a different slant because of the area you were in. Forget it. Don't forget it. But don't be upset by it, and don't let somebody think it makes you less than. The Make America Great Again slogan came from Ronald Reagan, who said, we're going to make America great again. We're going to take us back to the 50s. Now, the 50s were great for white males. They weren't worth a damn for the rest of us. Right. Make no mistake about that. I don't want to go back to the 50s, and I don't want to go back to the 1600s. We are now in the 21st century. To say make America great again means let's go back to when men were men and women knew it and other people stayed in their place. That's not where I want to be, and that's not where this country needs to be. This country needs to be into the 21st century. Give up that nonsense that we used in the 21st century, unless all the men who are listening, if there are any, want to start wearing knee breeches and powdered wigs and buckles on their shoes and hose. And if you want to go back to that period, go ahead, go for it. And I want to see you walking down the street on something other than April Fool's Day. And women, go back to pantalettes and pantaloons. Get corsets so tight that you pass out when you try to walk. You will never be allowed to ride a horse again, because women in that time weren't allowed to ride horses unless they had a problem. And if you want to travel, you'll have to, let's go back there.
Yeah.
Let's give up dishwashers and electricity.
Yeah. I agree with you totally, Jane. I'm just reflecting that there still is a majority of folks right now who absolutely want to have that dominance, who want to still be on top, who want to see themselves as a superior race. How do we work within that? How do I, as a Chinese woman, listen to someone say Chinese virus and Kung flu, and a year ago get accosted by a white woman or a faded black woman in a truck?
Thank you.
Call me a gook, because how do I operate within that setting and still maintain a belief that it's, what do I do? How do I get over it?
Look, it's going to take care of itself. The demographics of this country say that within 30 years, white people will be a numerical minority in the United States of America. White people will be a numerical minority in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. When that happens, and it's happening now, you look at the number of people of color who are in the House of Representatives. You look at the number of people of color that you see on television doing important things that never happened when I was a child. You look at the number of people who are in jobs of color who are in jobs that white folks never thought they would be able to do. It's going to take care of itself, and white people's lives are going to depend on, once again, but now they're going to have to admit it, on the intelligence, ambition, courage, curiosity, and creativity of people of all different color groups. That's the way it's going to be. Mm-hmm. We aren't going to have a choice in the future, and we'd better get used to it now. Mm-hmm. We'd better start now to say we got rid of miscegenation, and miscegenation laws were written. Good God. If you haven't read the book, The Color of Law, get it and read it. Miscegenation laws were written by people who believed that there were 3 or 4 different races. Now, think of how ignorant that is. We can't cross a cat with a dog and get a dad or a cog because they're different species. They won't reproduce. But we have been crossing people of different color groups for centuries. Mm-hmm. And they produce brilliant, beautiful, wonderful, creative, courageous people. They have to be courageous to keep on living in this racist society.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that we can't reproduce together, and we can because we are all the same species. And if you haven't read the book, Homo sapiens, the Sapiens, you haven't read the book Sapiens, get the book Sapiens and read it. It will blow you away when you realize how really ignorant the idea of 3 different races is, mm-hmm. and how much proof we have that it isn't true.
Yes.
I challenge every person watching this to get their DNA checked, take it back, get back as far as you can go, trace it back as far as you can go. And when you get it traced back as far as you can go, you whitest people that you see, you'll find out that a percentage of your DNA came from a country in Africa. Now, Africa isn't a country, it's a continent. But on the continent of Africa, there are lots of countries, and most of them are peopled by Black people. And most of you, no, every one of you will have a percentage of your DNA from a country in Africa. So now, people, get over it.
And
White
with
folks,
that, get over it. And we are completely. Thank you so much, Jane Elliott. We are out of time. I'm so grateful. Thank you for coming on and sharing your very necessary education. I usually ask my guests what you're most grateful for. Can you do that in 10 seconds? What is something or someone you're... I'm sorry?
My father.
Oh,
my father is what I'm most grateful for. He said, a fair thing is a pretty thing, and a right wrongs no man. And he also said, a man is judged by the company he keeps, and the best of company is none too good. Judge people by the company they keep, and then you'll know whether you want to be around them or whether you want them as president.
I'm so glad that you are part of my company now. Thank you so much for coming.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It is always illuminating to listen to Jane Elliott, who has spent her entire life educating us around how to value diversity, around racism, around unintentional racism that happens just because we think that we know what another person has experienced when it comes to looking different. I'll never forget in that, if you haven't watched it already, the PBS special Frontline, it's called A Class Divided. It is free on YouTube. It's an absolute must-see. It captures her original experiment as well as her replication of the experiment, Brown Eye, Blue Eyes, with the callers, with an audience on Oprah. Not just because she's my honorable moniker, but it was such an illuminating experiment to have these adults who come in for the show in very short time separate out discriminating against each other. And the one point of that video at the very end, when they go back and they talk to the people, I hope you watch that part where a white woman says on camera, look, everyone has been discriminated to some point or another in their lifetime. And the Black woman stands up and says, you do not know what it is like to wake up every morning and look in that mirror and see a Black face that I cannot change, that has consequences of racism, prejudice, inequity. It was such a powerful response. And I hope that if you're a person who has a knee-jerk reaction to Black Lives Matter and want to run in there and say, well, Blue Lives Matter, and what about the Native Americans, and Black lives, it's all lives that matter, and we're all one, and we shouldn't, have a contest of who gets discriminated against the most. Please take a breath and understand and recognize your BS, your belief system, that there is uniformity in treatment in our country. There is not. Black lives matter. And until Black lives matter, we cannot have all lives matter. So that's my advice that you may or may not want to use, but I definitely try to use that one as I continue to try to highlight all the areas of temporary darkness so we can move into the light. We can move into true humankind, emphasis on kind, equity and justice for all, which are the mission and credo of our beloved country, the United States of America. Okay, that's it for today's show. Stay tuned. Come back tomorrow for more of Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show, here on KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere, including my YouTube, reminding you that it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. And remember, have the best day ever.